All right, y'all, welcome to the first ever She Thriving virtual summit for ambitious women of color. Our focus, like I said, is about like, am I the problem? Whether or not we are the problem. And like I said, the first thing, we are not shaming ourselves in any way, shape, or form. You are not a problem. Some of the behaviors that you engage in can definitely be shifted. And so what we are doing today is focusing on shifting some of our behaviors. So the first thing I want you all to do is write an intention. What is an intention? Think of it as like something that you are saying to yourself that you are going to do in this moment. So I set intentions before we started. And I had one major intention, which was, or it's two, I guess. It's one sentence. Anyway, my intention is to have fun and to speak my truth. Okay. So in this moment for the next 3 hours, I'm going to have fun and I'm going to speak my truth. I want each and every one of y'all, if you have like a little sticky note near you, a notepad, work, but whatever it is nearby you, please take this moment and write down an intention. What do you want to be the case for your next 3 hours? Or it's more like 2.5 hours. So as you all get that started, I'm just going to give us a little bit of silence, and then I'm going to introduce our first speaker. It's always weird to like, how much time do you give people? You know what I mean? All right. If you've written down your intention, give me a thumbs up, please. Let me see those thumbs up. You wrote an intention. One person did that. We have, okay, there's 20. Oh, yeah, there we go. I see them coming in. I see them coming in. Last couple of people, make sure you write down an intention for this space. All right. Okay, so we are going to, yes, see, there's always that last person that just comes in right at the end. So hello, hello, hello. All right, so we are going to get started. Our first speaker, ooh, she's phenomenal. I love her. If you saw this on LinkedIn, you saw a little snippet from this speaker, Sasha Rodriguez. She is a phenomenal human, a boss woman. She is a clinical social worker. Hey, Sasha. Sasha and I are going to be having a conversation specifically around self-care. Okay. So a lot of times we bring up this phrase, self-care, I'm caring for myself, and don't really realize like how self-care can actually be things that we don't think they are, but we can also be doing things that actually are not caring for ourselves. So Sasha's going to clear some of that stuff up for us right now. Sasha, hello. I can't hear you for some reason. You're on mute. It's a Zoom thing.
It's a Zoom thing. My bad. I was having full-blown conversation by my lonesome.
Hey, Sasha.
Girl, hey.
Okay, tell our audience who you are, who you is, who you ain't.
Well, my name is Sasha Rodriguez, and I'm a licensed social worker, working specifically with communities of color with trauma-informed care. And I'm also the founder of Shades of Wellness.
You saw how she like moved her neck while she was talking because
In my head it was like bah, 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 in the background, like nobody could hear it but me, but it happened.
It happened. Awesome. Okay, so Sasha, let's just jump literally right into it, right? So the conversation is around self-sabotage. And when it comes to the perspective of like self-care, like tell me from your perspective, just given your profession, what are some of the typical ways that women, specifically women of color, self-sabotage when it comes to self-care?
They don't do self-care.
Ooh, all right. Okay. Say less.
Period. The end. So self-care, and just to clear up also, I feel like people use the term self-care interchangeably with coping skills, and those things are not necessarily the same thing, right? So self-care are the things that you're doing on a daily basis to be able to manage your stress levels, right? Or your anxiety levels, because anxiety and stress kind of go hand in hand. So that could be going for a walk, that could be going to happy hour with your friends, that could be exercise, if that's your ministry, whatever it may be that you know will help you bring your levels down is self-care. But self-care looks different for all types of people. However, that is not the same thing as a coping skill, because a coping skill is what you need in a moment of stress, right?
Mm,
So if, let's say, for example, so my mom passed away 2 years ago, right? Like, as I'm sitting in the hospital trying to not have full panic, I'm not about to walk, right? Or I'm not about to color necessarily in that moment when I have doctors coming in and out. I need to breathe in that moment. I need to ground in that moment. So I'm looking for stuff that I can see, things that I can hear, right? Like doing techniques for me to be able to bring my cortisol levels down so that I can start working again in my prefrontal cortex or in my like logical brain, and not walking around in lizard brain or like in my fight or flight. The problem is that women of color specifically, because of all of the burdens that we have had throughout life, whether learned or generational, we live in a flipped lid kind of way, right? So if you think this is our brain, right? If we this is our prefrontal cortex where we want to live. We are walking around in the world like this, which means that we're living in fight or flight,
mm.
and that can have effects, serious effects on our bodies, but it can also have serious effects on our emotions. That was a really long answer, but we don't do self-care.
We don't do, we don't, it wasn't really long answer. It was comprehensive. So like you brought up, you use a lot of really nice phrases. And now I'm like, my head is going, lizard brain. What is that? Say more.
So lizard brain is a psychological term that is used, sometimes isn't used, but it's basically the term of talking about that you've like lost reasoning, right? So it's like impulse.
Mm,
So it's harder for you to be rational when you are in that, right? So think about if you're walking across the street and you see a bus, your body is going to go into impulse. You're going to be like run, right? Or like sometimes people freeze, which is also a fight or flight response. So it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so like we go into one of those things where your brain, your amygdala, which is what controls your fight or flight, kind of goes in and is like danger. The problem is that there's a difference between real danger and perceived danger. So sometimes because of trauma or because of learned behavior, we can't necessarily tell the difference.
mm, got it. Okay. So, hmm. Okay. So, like I said, let's be honest. Some of the times we are able to access this understanding of things because we ourselves have also engaged in some of this. So, you were talking a little bit about like an experience that you had personally, and we don't necessarily have to talk about that specific experience, but tell me more like, how is this manifested for you in the past? Sabotaging when it comes to self care.
Yeah, so in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different areas, right? It's come up in family, especially after my mom passed away, just becoming now what is considered the matriarch in my nuclear family, right? My mom left a husband that she was with for 35, 36 years. I have a brother who's 6 years younger than me, and now there was just me. And it was up to me to kind of, all right, so how do we pay the bills? My dad had no idea, right? And I went into mom mode, and or at work or in relationships or whatever. Like I accepted this superwoman role that was taught to me by a woman who literally died because she didn't have good self-care,
Mm,
right? So now in retrospect, it's like when I'm teaching people about how self-care literally kills us, I saw that firsthand. So I had to then take a step back and be like, bruh, this ain't my job. I can't do all of this. I cannot accept this burden. This isn't my cross. And so now it's like I need to put up boundaries. Oh, so like maybe like 2 months after my mom died, I was like, yo, I'm going to the Catskills. I had no service. They had no way of contacting me. I was like, y'all gonna have to figure it out. I just need to go. Right? That also means putting limits on my calendar. I'm gonna work from this time to this time, and this client who needs a last minute reschedule, now you're gonna have to wait until next week. Like boundaries are self-care. And
Mm,
that makes people uncomfortable because people think boundaries are mean or whatever that may be. But boundaries are self-care because we can't pour out of a empty cup, right? And so, as you know, my faith for me is really important. So I take very seriously where the Bible says, love others as you love yourself. So if I can't love me effectively or well, how realistically do I do that to others?
hmm.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, so over here, it's a little early, girl. It's a little early.
Okay.
You out here preaching to me. It's a little early. This is your
Lunchtime here, girl. We up and ready.
I know. Noon, it's noon o'clock over there. So okay, so keep going in with that. Like keep going deeper because now like oftentimes we talk about self-care and self-care itself are like certain actions, etc. A
Mhm.
boundary is a form of self-care. What are
Right.
some other things that are actual forms of self-care? And like you mentioned, it not being coping skills, like clear that up for us, please.
So self-care can but boundaries are definitely self-care. Please have boundaries. Please have boundaries. Therapy is self-care. Social situations is self-care. Community can be self-care, right? Being an advocate can be self-care, like doing actual work in your community, journaling, music, exercise, stretching, meditation, all of these things that kind of just give us feel goods can be self-care, right? Draw if you're artistic, like drawing or coloring, taking a nap, like there's endless things. They're resets, right? So what are things that can be little resets um when you're feeling kind of overwhelmed,
Yep.
right? Just going for a walk, being in nature. Like there's just things that kind of like bring down our level. So assess, like you were talking about assessments, right? Assess your levels. Where am I on a, there's stress thermometers that you can look up, like on a scale from 1 to 10, and they tell you like, I'm I'm good, or I'm coping, or I'm struggling. Like they will tell you on the bottom what they are.
Right.
Gauge where you are and then pick something that is realistic and that you know will help you in this moment, right? Because not all coping skills are also appropriate for everything. Because if I have a lot of work to do, maybe going for a walk isn't what I need, but making a to do list is.
Yeah.
Becoming more solution focused instead of problem focused. All right, so I have these 25 things to do. This is how much time I have. What's realistic? Put them in order, prioritize. That's self care.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of sitting there being like, it's all falling on me, right? Because that used to be me. I used to sit on the floor and just be like, I don't know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like, who is that helping? Not I. So get it together, make a list. So
How can I pause you right? Like, how do you get it together? Because sometimes that's the hardest part. We may know how to make a list, all that stuff, but the part of getting from like, I am panicking, I am on the floor, I don't want to do this, I don't like this, that's the hard part. How do you do that?
so being on the floor is great. Stay on the floor, give yourself a beat, right? Breathe, breathe. Breathing is my favorite thing. Like breathe. Just take a second. What is it right now that I can control? Let me do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I shift my focus, right? I have to reframe. So yes, my world is on fire, but what is the thing that I can kind of tunnel vision on about what I can control? Because I can't control anything else. And trying to is going to increase my stress and it's going to lead me to disappointment. So I need to
Yep.
adjust and shift.
Got
But
it.
give yourself that moment. Like people also think that you need to like, no, don't give yourself that on the floor moment. Give yourself that on the floor moment. Lay on
The
the floor, go
thing.
to your car, scream it out, do punch a pillow, do whatever it is that you need to do, and then push.
Yes. That if you hear anything else, if you don't hear anything else from Sasha, it is that, right? And I'll be honest with me, I've been working on that, right? So I mean, therapy is super important for me on so many different levels, and also having a coach, because I think even as like helping professionals, we also need help as well. And so I've been engaging in this practice for the past like 6 or 7 months of just like when I feel something, I'm gonna feel it, and I'm also going to give space for it. Easier said than done. y'all don't be out here like, oh, Enuma. So no, she's not. She is not perfect at doing this. She is not. But I'm really good at being able to find times and windows, right? So I know that when I wake up in the morning, I feel really anxious. I don't know what it is, but I have a lot of anxiety in the morning. And so I've scheduled my life in a way that I have time in the morning before I need to see anybody, do anything for anybody, engage with anybody. And in those moments is when usually I'll be like, true story. About 2 weeks ago, about to head to my therapy session. Therapy session's at noon. At 11:20-ish around that time, because I was like, I gotta get out, whatever. I could not. Like, I literally just fell to the ground and started crying. Why? I don't know. When I got to my therapy session, that's when I was like, okay, now I understand. What was coming up for me, but I didn't know at that moment why my body needed me to just be like, fall apart right now. And so I've been working on that, like just trying to give myself the space to just fall apart, give myself the space to just exist. Creating that boundary with people where it's like, if I don't have it in me, yeah, I know I like specifically committed to talking to you or being in a specific place, but even if I was, I would not be here, right? Or I'd be hiding what's actually going on with me, and that's not benefiting either of us. So I hear you on that. Like, fall apart, take the time, do the whole Olivia Pope quiver lip thing, do it all.
But
Do
have
it
your
all.
wine, right? Because at least you
Yes.
saw at the end of the day, she would have her popcorn and she would have her glass of wine, right? So regardless of what you're doing, she still had that, okay, let me self-care at the end of the night. But also what you're talking about is intrinsic to women of color. We stuff our emotions because who gave us room for them, right?
Yes.
Especially our generation and older. Um, who was really asking you about how you felt?
Mm.
It was, I said, because I said so, and I could give you something to cry about. So where you have, I mean, that's how it was in my household. Where are you given the space of like, okay, I hear you. I hear how you feel. You still have to do X, Y, and Z, but your feelings are valid. Nobody was validating our feelings. Nobody was giving us room to have our feelings. So it is unfair of us to expect that we are just going to know how to sit in feelings that we were never allowed to have.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
mask and we
Mm-hmm.
push and we keep going, right? So there's just generational things that we also need to kind of undo. There's a lot of like remove and replace that needs to happen in order for us to know and be comfortable doing these things, because
Yeah.
at the beginning it's just going to be uncomfortable when someone asks you how you feel, and then it's like, Dad, how do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
No one really asks me that.
Mm. So then let's talk about remove and replace then, right? What are some things that we can start doing now? Like, and obviously we're not trying to like do full cold turkey. I am a new person. I'm gonna like, y'all, that will last for about a week. But what are some things that we can start removing and replacing them with? And before you even start talking about them specifically, please share the importance of why, when it comes to changing a habit or behavior, it's a remove and replace, not just a remove. Yeah.
So just trying to remove something alone is not sustainable. You will inevitably fall back into the same thing. You have to be able to put something else in its place for you to shift your focus and your attention, and for it to like fill that gap. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that we are removing, how you were talking about before, benefits us. It doesn't have to be healthy, but it
Mm-hmm.
does benefit, right? It serves a purpose. So we need to be able to have something else serve that purpose or fulfill that need in a healthier way, in order for us to not kind of like, well, let me go back to doing this over here. So we have to be able to remove and replace.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one main one main thing that we can remove and replace is people pleasing and boundaries. Right? I want everybody to get really comfortable with the sentence no. Sentence, not word like full sentence, no period is a sentence, right? So, hey, can you I sing at church, right? So can you fill in, I'm on break right now. Can you fill in on church on Sunday? No, because I'm on break and I have something to do, hence why I'm on break. But instead of saying all of that before, I would have felt really bad and been like, let me see if I can shift things around, or I'm really sorry, but I have this that no, I can't.
Mhm.
And before I would like panic and people just be like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. And keep it pushing. Like I want us to kind of let go of this trope of having to do for everybody else, having to save everybody else, having to fix it for everybody else, right? And I think we can thank Olivia Pope for that too, right? Like I can fix it. Sit down.
Take
Like
off your heels and sit
take
down.
off your heels and your coat and just chill out with your white hat. Like we're good. We're good, Olivia. Thank you. I need you to not fix it for everybody else because you're literally killing yourself. And we saw that like that she's a perfect example of that. Like was doing everything for everybody else while she was literally falling apart.
Yep.
Like, girl, you ended up a whole kidnapped. Spoiler alert, nobody's ever watched Scandal. Like,
Really spoiled it, but it's all good. It's really long. There's more after that too.
there's more. But like, bro, can we not want to be everyone? Like, I love the song I'm Every Woman, but like, can we not?
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair and kind to ourselves too, like there are just so many examples and so many opportunities to continue to be every woman, right? Like, and sometimes what can happen is we are also in certain situations more competent than the other people who are there. And so we put on our superwoman cape and are just like, well, I can do it. And it's really not going to do much to me either, right? Like, it's not going to kill me to do this because it's pretty easy. I'm able to. No, no, you can still say no to this, right? Like
But
allow
also, what
other
are you taking
spaces,
away from somebody else?
correct. Allow other spaces and people to rise to the occasion,
Facts.
right? Because then what can also happen is you have situations where you've been jumping in and rising and rising and rising and rising and rising, and that's great. But then what then happens is if you need them, they haven't actually built any muscles, any skills to be able to be there for you. So now you're helping to create a dynamic where you are the most competent, you are the most capable, and you always have to do it.
Hmm. And now you're the strong friend.
Now we're the strong friend, the strong teammate, the strong employee, the stronger parent, like all of those things. And granted, like, let's be fair, in some situations, you may be more competent than another person. And in some situations, it may be the case that it is your work to do, but everything is not your work to do.
Facts.
Everything is not your work to do.
Because and then you also fall into thinking that you are defined by your roles,
Yeah.
right? Who are you if I take away all of those other things? So if I take away the business and I take away being a mom and I take away being a partner and I take away all of the stuff, who are you? Do you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's a really interesting and potentially uncomfortable space to be in too, of
Yep.
just like witnessing who are you when you strip away all of these roles, all of the different ways that you've been stepping in for everyone, doing things for everyone. Who are you? And then
Mhm.
who will you be to yourself? Those are really big questions.
Definitely.
Uh, I'm awake now. I'm awake now. It's not too early. I'm awake now. All right.
Period.
So questions, y'all. If you have questions for Sasha, please put that in the Q&A, and I will check them out. But I want you to now share with everyone, just like, what do you want these women here to walk away with? And then I'll share the goodie that you have for them.
I'm good. Um, I just want I just want everyone to know that even if you feel like you are the problem now, it doesn't mean that you have to stay the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being comfortable with being uncomfortable is very like a very cliche thing, but real growth happens when you're able to sit in that awareness and identify the areas of your life that really need attention so that you can be more effective in all of your roles, but also so that you can be able to limit who has access to you and who feels entitled to you, because the only person who should have that 24/7 is you.
Hmm. edges, they're still here. They felt snatched. They felt snatched, but they're still here. I feel them. So we have someone who is asking, what are some good books to read around self-care and boundaries?
So it depends. I was like, let me go get these
Like, let me
books.
go grab
It
it.
depends. So it depends on the types of so self-care, honestly, you can really do a Google search. Google types of self-care and they'll come up and they have affirmations, especially and they have stuff like that geared towards women of color. They have podcasts, journals, like guided journals, things like that. I mean, like truly you can just do a quick little Google search for stuff like that. And in terms of books, there's tons of books. But it depends also on the type of issue, I guess, that you're dealing with. Because if it's grief, there's books on grief. If it's just trying to reorganize your life, there's that. If it's breaking up with a toxic person, there's that. I have a whole book, Breaking Up with Toxicity. It's real. If it's PTSD, there's something for that. If it's codependency, there's something for that, right? So I think that before you can really have not a referral, what is this called? Recommendation for some type of literature, first we need to identify like what's the scope.
Got it. Okay. So figure out exactly what it is that you're trying to address, right? And then as you figure out what it is you're trying to address, there are different things for what you're working on. Wonderful. Awesome. Y'all, I love reading. And Sasha knows this. I love reading. So I definitely, let me just be honest. I have all of these books here. I was like, someone's gonna ask about books and I'm gonna have to share. So I was like literally trying to look through all of my books. Like, let me just pull them out right now. There is a book that I will recommend a little bit later, but I'm just gonna plug it right now, real quick. So this book, Loving Bravely, and this is not just about love of another person, it's also love about yourself. And when it comes to that, a lot of what Sasha was talking about specifically around boundaries, it helps you dig deeper into why potentially your boundaries aren't as strong, right? And sometimes it starts with your family and how you were raised, all of that. But that's a whole nother conversation. Sasha's like, wait, let me get in. I'm sorry, I can't tag you in. I can't.
I was like, girl.
No, I can't tag you in. Okay, so Sasha, Shades of Wellness, you are offering up some resources to our participants. Please tell us what it is now. We'll put in the chat.
Can I answer Patricia's question? I don't know if it's Patricia
Oh
or
yes,
Patricia.
Absolutely. Ooh, what is
Getaway
the getaway
places.
place for 1 to 2?
So I don't know where you live. However, if you look up I think it's called getaway homes or getaway house or something like that. Those are like those little tiny cabins. Mm, it fed my soul. It was just me. You can cook. It has like a little kitchen. You have your own bathroom. You have all of these things, but you're close enough to people where you're not like gonna die, but like far enough. I'm just saying, like people of color frolicking in the forest is it's not really at the top of our list. However, it was phenomenal. And I was able to just cook. I brought a book, was able to just like pray, meditate, do all of the things that I do, but I really liked it. But I do know that specifically they have like countrywide.
Got it. Wonderful. Thank you. I will
Okay.
fly she said I will fly anywhere. Can you fly me too, Patricia? Can I go with
Right.
Promise I'll give you free coaching. I want to do that. And y'all, guess who on this call figured out how to enable chat for all of it is me. It is I. It should be available to everyone now so you can say, so you can speak and not just put on a heart emoji. All right, so I'm sharing in the chat. There we go.
There it
Patricia,
is.
so Patricia, respond to me. Are you going to take me with you? All right. So I put in the chat, Sasha, yay. I put the link to your company page. Tell them what they can find at the bottom of it.
So at the bottom, you can find some resources. So there's going to be 2 resources specifically, just as you're getting, I guess, like on track for self-care and all of these things. So number 1, it's talking about rest. Rest isn't a reward, it is a requirement.
Mm.
The Bible tells me so. You can go, there's like an informational sheet with just 3 really quick tips about self-care coping skills and the importance of rest. And then there's another one just giving you like checklist things. So if you're one of those people who is more of like a written, what did I do, whatever, it has different activities that you can do for checklists. It also includes sleep, water, mood, and then at the end there's things just to be end your day in like gratitude. So like just what are 3 things that you are grateful for?
And it's pretty. The aesthetic
Indeed.
is right. So it's easy for you to just print out for yourself or maybe even download it onto your computer or even on your phone and just have it. And it is also shareable too. So if there are other women or just individuals in your life that you feel like this would speak to, please feel free to share that. Sasha, you are phenomenal. I am so grateful for you. I feel like we should have a follow-up conversation, just the 2 of us, and then we get back to them to continue this. But thank you so much. Yay. Y'all share some love with Sasha. Share some love. Now that you have the chat,
Right. Now that you have a chat.
but why? But the emojis are giving life too.
Uh,
Sasha, thank you so much.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Y'all, come on, like Sasha, amazing. So we are moving on. Sasha left us in a really good place, especially when it comes to talking about boundaries, because our next phenomenal expert speaker is going to talk about how we tend to self-sabotage within relationships. And here's the most important part of this. It is not just relationships with others, it is also relationship with self, because we don't talk about that enough. When we say relationships, we immediately think a partner, a family member. No, you also have a relationship with self. So April Nowlin, she is a certified divorce recovery and dating coach. Hey, April.
Hey.
April, go ahead, tell everybody who you is and who you ain't, please.
Hey y'all. So my name is April Nowlin. I am a certified life breakthrough coach, but I specialize in divorce recovery and healthy dating.
Okay, so April, this is going to be juicy. And let me just put a disclaimer too here. Like, so again, like I said, all relationships, there are some things that we might speak to that come from just our perspective, as far as like how we orient to dating and being in a relationship with people. But we are supporting like any choice, any type of relationship you choose to be in. It just might be that we have a certain perspective. So I just want to make sure that that is super clear to each and every one of y'all. It's just our perspective. It is not us singling anyone out or feeling as though like there aren't other ways to be connected to humans. So, yay, bro, please. In your line of work, I'm sure a lot of things come up, and not even just with your clients, but within yourself too. So, can you share with us a little bit more about like the typical ways that you find women, specifically women of color, engaging in self-sabotage when it comes to relationships?
Ooh. There are so many ways that we um, put roadblocks up to our success in relationships. But the 2 that I see the most is not understanding or accepting the life that we deserve. So we diminish what we think we deserve. So someone can tell us, you deserve the world. And we go, oh, no, no, I don't. No, I don't need all that. Yes, you do. So it's not accepting what we deserve. And the second one is not asking for help.
Mm.
So we wear our cape. We're superwoman. We can do it all. We can do all the things. And I'm so glad Sasha mentioned this. And we will find ourselves on the floor in a just a heap of nothing because we think we can do it all. So asking for help is one of the number one things that I see across the board is that we don't do it. We think I can just do it. Or specifically women of color, we're kind of raised that like you don't tell your business to nobody. I don't know if y'all have ever heard that growing up.
Yes.
Whatever happens in this house stays in this house.
Yes, family secrets stay locked up.
Yes. So we were not given the permission to say, I need help. And instead of saying, I need help, we internalize the things that we're doing and it destroys us as women.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm just sitting with it for a second. Just allow me, people. allow me people. Because oh my gosh, like that, it's that, right? Like there's a way in which, because of some of the environments that we've been in, expectations, the way we were raised, we internalize a lot of things and then stay silent. So it's a double whammy. Not only are you internalizing the things, you are now not talking about them. And so it stays stuck within you. And then now it just plays out in a lot of your behaviors. So, oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So we were talking a little bit about this before, the summit, and you brought up something that was like really important, I think, to kind of delve into next, where because of that behavior, we can miss so many great opportunities in life, and not even just like professional opportunities, right? Like opportunities in general. Speak more to that.
Where our thoughts lie is where we're going to go, right? So with my clients, a lot of times I start with, what do you think of yourself? Because the world can tell us we're great, but if we don't believe that, we're not going to act on it. Give you an example. I have a 15-year-old daughter who plays competitive basketball. Okay. And she will have coaches tell her, you're a leader, you're great on the court. And then I'll see her tearing herself down. And I'll tell her, we can talk you, we can cheer you on till you're blue in the face, but unless you believe it, you're not going to act on it. Okay. So it really starts with our belief system, and our belief system comes from a lot of different places. It comes from what we saw as a child, what we heard as a child. So one of the stories that I share about my journey is that I've been divorced 3 times, and people were like, how in the world did that happen? A big part of it was I didn't have a voice. When I was younger, people told me, stop talking. You talk too much. Stop talking, stop talking, stop talking. And so I would get into unhealthy relationships and I would not talk. I would not have the words to say, this is hurting me. I don't want to be in this relationship. I deserve better, because for years, people told me to stop talking. So that was a self-sabotaging behavior that I had developed because it is what people told me I was, or told me who I was. And so when I went through my healing journey, that opened up the door to use my voice. And so that is what has allowed me to accept opportunities. Let me tell y'all, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would not have been on this program because I would have felt like I don't have anything to say. I got a lot to say, but it was because people told me my voice wasn't important. And so that is one of the ways that as women, we will not accept those opportunities. And this could be opportunities at work where we are scared to speak up at the table if we get there. These are opportunities in our families when we see things happening with our children or our significant other and we don't say anything. These are just personal things. So what are some of those personal goals that you've talked yourself out of? For example, I love to travel, y'all. Love to travel. And so I want to see all 50 states, all 7 continents. I've done 29 states and I've done 4 continents. Okay. Well, I was always told Black people don't go to places like Wyoming. Black people don't go out of the country. Black people don't do this. And so had I listened to them, I would have never left the state that I live in. And so our voice is what opens up the door for opportunities for us. So if y'all take one thing away from this, use your voice. Your voice has so much power. Whether someone has told you that or not, I'm telling you today that your voice has power.
Yes. Okay. It's just all the nuggets. Like you couldn't make us just wait for a little bit, start 10 minutes
We
in.
got 20 minutes.
Come on. Okay. So, all right. You were talking a little bit. I mean, April, you were really great with just like being open and honest about your life, your experiences, all of that stuff. Like I did with Sasha, like we have to own the ways in which we start to do these things ourselves. And so one thing you had mentioned before in a conversation that you and I had was specifically around like how we can, as women, but also as women of color, just take more responsibility for things in a relationship, right? And primarily for the end of a relationship or how a relationship ends. Talk more about that and like really just like share with us how you've experienced it.
Yeah. So, I work with a lot of women who are either experiencing divorce healing after heartbreak, which means you're coming out of a relationship, toxic or otherwise, and your heart simply needs to heal. And also those who are re-entering the dating world or in a relationship and they just really want it to go well. So when I think about those things that hold us back, one of the things that we have to do is take a look in the mirror. Y'all remember Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson? Mm-hmm. There's some truth in that, okay? When I was going on my healing journey after my third divorce, one of the things that I had to do was ask myself a very, very deep question. Y'all ready? How did I get here? Now, part of how I got there was upbringing, life experience, all those things. But at the same time, I picked those men, and there was a reason why I picked those men. And so one of the first things that we have to do to stop these behaviors is a journey of self-discovery. And that's hard, y'all. There were times where I had to look in the mirror and say, you know what, that was your fault. Mm-hmm. And self-sabotaging, it comes from a root of preservation, right? So we're trying to protect ourselves, we're trying to keep ourselves safe, but we don't always do it in the most healthy way. So even if we are choosing to end a relationship, we have to ask ourselves, why are we choosing it? Are we choosing to end this relationship because it was unhealthy, or because we're afraid that it's going to go really well, or we're afraid that we're going to mess up in this relationship? And this is intimate relationships. This is relationships with your family, relationships with your children, right? We have to take a step back and ask ourselves, how did I get here? It's almost like when you're walking down the street and you trip over something. And every day you walk down the street and you keep tripping over the same thing. At some point, we have to look back and go, why do we keep tripping over this same spot? Another thing that I did when I was healthy, I actually went back and I asked two of my boyfriends from like 20 years ago that I felt like we had good relationships. And I asked them, like, why did our relationship end? Like, what happened? And to be honest with y'all, it was me. It was me. And I was like, man, I remember that a little differently. But once again, I said when I was healthy. So don't go back. If that's y'all, don't go back and start calling exes if y'all ain't ready to hear the truth. But,
right. Right.
But, you know, it was that self-discovery. And it's a journey, y'all. It's not something that happens in like a month. If you guys like, I'm in my 40s. And so I had to go through a journey going back 20 years of like different decisions I made and why. And most of those behaviors were rooted in fear.
That's real. That's real. And the accountability conversation, right? Like I'm trying to stay on it. And I'm like, oh, there's a personal connection here, right? Because I am divorced. I chose to divorce. And when I was going through my healing period and continuing, because the healing period didn't stop, like it doesn't stop, right? But when I was going through my experience of all of that, it was really important that I sat with myself and realized, like I said to you all, I created the relationship that I had, and I chose my partner based off of where I was in my own personal development journey when it comes to relationships. And at that point, I was in a place where what other people wanted for me mattered more than what I wanted for myself. I, at that point, believed that other people could see what I needed in a relationship better than I could see it myself. And so, of course, I would end up in a relationship other people wanted for me. And it looked real cute, y'all. It looked real cute from the outside. But from the inside, I like was smacked in the face with reality, but then also smacked in the face with awareness of like, oh, that's what I actually want. That's kind of cute. Now let me start finding that, right? But in order for me to find that, I have to be honest about the fact that A, I have a tendency to care about what other people want for me. And then two, that what I do want is very particular. And if I'm not super clear about that and then clear with other people, then I'm always going to have the opportunity to accept things that aren't going to match what I want. So I feel that, I hear that, all those things. Okay, so now we're doing all this self-discovery, we're understanding our why, like, and again, I said that, y'all, what is motivating your behavior? What is motivating your behavior? Super important. When it comes to us like shifting out of these self-sabotaging behaviors, what is it that you're asking us to start doing or start doing differently?
The biggest thing that you can do is make a plan. We go into life change just kind of hoping and wishing things are going to change, but make a plan for change, right? Sit down and visualize, how will my life be different if I change this behavior? With my clients, a lot of times what I'll have them do, especially those who are coming out of broken relationships, I'll ask them, what was your life in that relationship and what type of life do you want for your future? What type of relationship? And what happens is when they start to kind of feel themselves creeping back into behaviors, they can pull out a tangible list and say, okay, if I do this, this is what I'm going to get. But if I do this, this is what I'm going to get. And this is even, I'll take it a step further. If you're self-sabotaging with things like finances, right? And you're struggling with a budget, first of all, get some help, y'all, ask for help. But if you're struggling, ask yourself, okay, if I overspend this month, am I going to be homeless? And that could be a reality for some people, like legit, but if I stay on my budget, what am I going to accomplish? And so the first thing that I recommend is writing out a plan, writing out your vision. There's something about, and Sasha, I'm with you, I'm a believer, but there's something about writing the vision down. If y'all are like me, you try to remember something and 5 minutes later, you're like, I don't know what I was trying to remember, right? So in order to make change, we need to have a plan. Second thing, give yourself grace. You're not going to get it right. And you may have heard me say this a million times. Give yourself grace. You're not going to get it right every time. You're going to trip up. There may be behaviors that you have felt like, I mastered this, until you get into the next situation that triggers you. But if you're prepared for the triggers, if you're prepared for the situation, then that fosters us to create that change that we really want.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Create the change that you really, really want and prepare yourself, because it's not going to be easy. It's never easy. And that's honestly, that's kind of sometimes it can feel really annoying. I'm going to be I'm in this field. I am in this field. And I'm also just like, oh my gosh, this is so much. And there's also a balance there where it's like, yes, this is a lot. This is asking a lot of myself. It's calling me into a higher level of myself. And then I'm also experiencing the fruit of all of this labor too, right? Like I'm in a nice, healthy relationship now with a person who people told me 2 years ago did not exist. Right? Like I was listening to people literally say to me, yeah, but you don't really want that. Or men aren't like that, right? Because I'm in a heterosexual relationship, right? Men aren't like that. They're not raised like that. You'll never find somebody like that. Just stay with your husband. I kid you not, that was what was shared with me. Right. And that fear mongering is what can keep us in a space where we're not thinking about opportunities and possibilities. Does he have a brother? He does not. That's sad, right? He only has sisters, 3 sisters. So if you want to take one of his sisters, which I can't really guarantee, none of that. But yeah, I'm experiencing the fruit of Regina. I'm experiencing the fruit of the labor there, right? And granted, now it's calling me into something else. It is calling me into something else because now I have found a partner who I am in a very healthy and beautiful and loving relationship with. And now it is calling me into being at a certain level of vulnerability and communication that I have never had to experience before. So then it's next level.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because that is very similar to me. I'm now in one of the first healthy relationships I've ever had my entire life. But y'all know what happened when I got into a different kind of relationship? I had to face those triggers of self-sabotage. So even though he was different, I still had some work to do, but I didn't see it until I got into a different relationship. So I had done all the things, right? I wrote out, this is what I want, and this is what I want in a man. And then when I met him, some of those triggers came up. Oh, he's not really what he says he is because so-and-so did this. And so that is a great example of, we can sometimes get what we want or what we believe we want, and we can mess it up. So ladies, make sure that you prepare yourself, once again, that plan for even when you get the things that you know you deserve and you want, those triggers might still pop up.
Yeah. And added on to that, like understanding that's the next level of work, right? Because and I agree with this, like spending time with yourself and working through things on yourself without necessarily being in relationship with someone is super important. And you will work on all those things by yourself, and they will not seem to be working once you find a partner. Or even a new friendship and all of that, because guess what, those things were happening in isolation, right? Like those things were happening just with you. That was self work. Now this is interpersonal work. It's different, right? April, girl, we won't be here forever and we can't. I got other speakers. Please tell the people what you are offering them.
Yes. So I have created, it's a very quick guide, and it really is to get you started on killing self-sabotaging behaviors. And so it's going to challenge you to reflect on the things I talked about, acknowledging the behavior itself. So what am I actually doing? And in this, you may want to get a trusted friend, your therapist, your counselor, your coach to help you identify that. And then you'll look at how do you challenge the behavior. So it's one thing to acknowledge it. Now we need to challenge it. Where did it come from? Why do I believe this? And then we'll work on changing the behavior. So quick little download. It's on my resources page. Download it and just sit with it. It's not something that's going to be 1, 2, 3 done, but it should get you started on your journey.
I'm sorry, I was not laughing at you. I was laughing at Sarita's question. I just saw it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, I mean, I'll tell you. So Sarita asked, how and where did you meet these men? Was it online? For myself, this is like the cutest story. This was actually my first ever crush from when I was 13 years old. He lived right next door to me. I was best friends with his sisters. And when I found out that he existed, I wrote him a love letter at 13 and sprayed perfume on it, and then curbed him for 20 years because I thought that he was not the person I should be with because my family told me differently. So that's my story. That's where I found him, on 226th Street in the Bronx. What about you, April?
So I met my significant other at a gas station. We actually attended the same church, but didn't know each other. I knew his previous wife, who had passed away a year before that. I knew her briefly, so we weren't friends. But he and I never paid any attention to each other. And Christmas Day rolls around and we see each other at the gas station. And I'm going to tell this my way. He sprinted to my car to pump my gas and pay for my gas, and it's history. Now he's going to tell a different version, but we met at a gas station.
The most unexpected places. The most unexpected places. And sometimes some of these people are already in your circle, in your space. It's just about being in a place personally within yourself to even be able to see them, or even be able to receive them, So hopefully that helps, Sarita. Hilarious. April, you are phenomenal. Thank you so much for speaking to the people. Sasha is going to be putting the resources in there, so look for Sasha's name when yes. But then April, you have one more thing that you have to offer them, right? Like you have an event that's coming up. Please share that before you come on.
Yeah, so I am having in January, it's a virtual event. It is boundaries after a breakup. So we heard Sasha talk about boundaries. We need boundaries in every area of our life. But when we go through heartbreak, it's a trauma. And so we need to relearn boundaries with ourselves, with our ex, with our family, with our kids, all these different areas that are involved in our lives. So you guys can get a discount on that. And I will drop in the discount code. The discount code is Thriving, and I believe it's 50% off until the 15th of December. So it is a virtual event. So get out there and register for that.
Yes. Thank you, April. And I will, again, like I said, I will share all of these things with y'all after the summit as well. And do share with your friends. April, you are phenomenal. You are phenomenal. A whole phenom. Thank you for showing up for us, and providing all of this like juicy information for us to have. We'll be back. You and I.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. If y'all are enjoying yourselves, show me something. Give me a reaction. Put something in the chat. Like, is this hidden? I see all the reactions. Look at all the colorful hands. I love the colorful hands. Did you know you could change the skin color of your hands? It's amazing. Awesome. Okay. So, my next guest, she is, I just have to be like, everybody's phenomenal, y'all. Okay. Everyone's phenomenal. They're amazing. But this next guest, the conversation that I had a conversation with a friend, and I was talking through the fact that I wanted to do this summit. And she was like, I have the right person for you, the perfect person for you. And so this next guest is going to be talking about motherhood, but from a very different perspective than I've ever experienced or heard about before. And so if there's any time for y'all to be pulling out a notepad and be taking notes, it is right now, because Vanessa is going to come with it. Okay. So welcome, Vanessa. Our conversation, like, I don't even know. You and I talked a little bit about, the first thing I asked you, remember that question? I was like, so you handle motherhood, like from the idea of wanting to be a mother to like, and you were like, no.
No,
So Vanessa's going to be open. She's going to be honest. She's going to be real. Y'all buckle up and get ready for this. Hey, girl.
That's such an amazing like introduction. How are you?
I am very well. I'm very well. And I love the outfit. I feel like the outfit is outfitting.
You know what? This is not what I had on this morning because, you know, I'm home with my toddler. I definitely had like stains coming down, sweat, because I'm like, I'm wrestling you. You got to get down. I have this meeting that I need to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to look.
I love it. I love that you showed up and showed out for all of us. And now you're about to like bless all of our brains as well. So Vanessa, tell everybody who you is and who you ain't. Like, give us your titles.
So I think these days I start with I'm a mom, but yeah, I'm so much more than just a mom. I'm a woman. I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist for the last 12 years now. I've been a mom for the last 2.5. Wife, and entrepreneur. So I'm a little bit of all of those things. Human, having a human experience. So a little bit of all of those things.
Yes. A very, very human experience. And I appreciate you for like focusing on those specific things, because it's definitely going to play into this conversation that we have.
Nice.
Holy. So there is a little term that you use in terms of the work that you do, matrescence. And I was like, what is that? I Googled it, and I felt like it didn't matter. I needed to hear specifically from your mouth. So could you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do and like what is matrescence?
Right. Yeah. So my way of being introduced to matrescence was through my own experience of becoming a mother. So I had never heard about it before as well. And I think when you initially hear, you're like, okay, there's the sense at the end that sounds a lot like adolescence. So when I became a mom, there was this feeling that I couldn't describe to other people. And you hear stories about motherhood, you hear about like what people go through, and you hear the typical stories. You hear people say like, I lost myself in motherhood. And I was determined that that wasn't going to be my story. And I remember sitting with my husband, and he was like, yo, what's going on with you? Like, you're different. Like, you're just off. I'm like, of course I'm off. I just had a baby. Like, I'm not the same. But when I sat with him in that moment, I was like, I'm not the same, but I'm not the same in the sense that I'm losing myself. I feel like I'm becoming more of myself. It feels like an expansion. It feels like I'm me. I've always been me. Vanessa's still there, but there's more of her now that I've never met this version of Vanessa. She's different, and she's different, but she's having a hard time grasping that expansion and making sense of it. So then I got on Google, like, what is this? What am I experiencing right now? Because I've never heard anybody speak of it in this way. You only hear certain stories of motherhood. So when I looked it up, I came across this word, matrescence, and I watched this video. And I'll try to, maybe I can, it's a TED Talk by Alexandra Sachs. She's a reproductive psychiatrist. And she mentioned this, and she talked about it in her TED Talk, and I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I'm going through. So matrescence is the adolescent version of becoming a mother. It's that developmental process that you go through that is very much emotional, hormonal, spiritual. There's a spiritual awakening when you become a mother. It's physical, if I haven't said that already. It's psychological, it's physiological, but it's these changes that you go through in becoming a mother that mimics what you went through in adolescence, except now you're caring for another person. And
Mm.
so that's matrescence in a nutshell and how I came to it. And so in the last 2.5 years, I've been counseling other women in their becoming a mother, their matrescence journey.
Yes. See, y'all,
Mm.
are your minds not blown? Like, I didn't hear about
It
this
blew
at
my
all.
mind.
Right, right. But even just the fact that you decided to do that work to try to like figure out and even just put a name to like what it is that you're experiencing, as opposed to being like, yeah, you're right, I'm off. Or yeah, you're right, I'm not myself. Or just even abandoning what you were noticing about yourself
Right,
at the role of like what a mother is.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's huge. All right, I have a little bit of like a curveball question.
Okay.
So you could definitely be like, let me
What's
think
up?
about it.
Yeah.
What if you are someone who you didn't physically give birth to a child? Instead, like, you know, for example, you might have had a child through a surrogate, or you are now a caretaker of a young person, but they're not your child. Do you still have like a phase that is kind of like matrescence or?
Yeah, absolutely. So while you might not go through some of those like biological changes, those hormonal changes, I mean, if you're surrogate, you will in a sense, because you're carrying that child, you're gonna go through those physiological and biological changes. What will come with that is more of the identity changes. So there's a term in matrescence that's called the inner split. And so I remember feeling this when right after I gave birth to my son. Some women feel it literally at delivery, some women feel a little bit later, where inner split means you are now split. Your identity is pre-motherhood you and now motherhood you, like the maternal you. And women who adopt, women who foster, women who just have to mother a child, whatever that mothering looks like, you will go through that inner split because you are now no longer just Vanessa anymore. You are now who you've always been and this person who has to care for this other child. And it changes your values, it changes your perspective on life, it changes your identities, it changes your priorities. It shifts everything. So that's called the inner split because you are now split between who you were and who you are becoming or who you are now. And that becoming a mother and being a mother is it is, for me, it was like my earth just moved underneath me. It can be really like, you know, take you off of your feet. I can't find the right terms right now. And a lot of people will mistaken it with postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression, and it may not be that. And a lot of women are getting diagnosed with these disorders who may not actually fit the description for that, but because we don't know anything else, this is still very much in its infancy. We slap these diagnoses on these moms who might just be dealing with like everyday struggles because of matrescence, because you're becoming a mother, you're being a mother. So yeah, any woman who is mothering can go through that. And I get this question a lot: can men go through matrescence? And so no, you cannot go through matrescence. It is very much a woman, you know, cis woman, biological, this is your experience because of the hormonal pieces that are attached to it. Now, this doesn't mean that they don't go through that same sort of becoming a father, but it's not called matrescence.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called for fathers. I'm
We'll
not going down that road.
Right? Give it a couple of years for them to figure it out. But we
Right.
know that they definitely are going through some level of
They're
transformation.
going through, absolutely.
Yes. So, okay. So that's like our understanding on the grand scheme of things like the outside world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Internally, when it comes to a woman who is going through matrescence or, you know, some of the other experiences that are connected to matrescence, like what are some of the ways that you find these women self-sabotaging?
So a lot of it, and the thing with the self-sabotage too, is I find that a lot of the women that I work with, they're doing it on an unconscious level. They're not even aware that they're self-sabotaging because there's so much that's happening. Like I said, with my experience, it was like trying to catch like how fast these changes were happening. And I think one of the reasons why I didn't have the same narrative of losing myself in motherhood is because I didn't have my child until I was 37. I spent so many years pouring into myself, doing the work of becoming who I wanted to be and the version of myself that I wanted to see. I wanted to be a mother. I knew exactly what that was going to look like for me in terms of the type of mother. Some of it has come to fruition and some of it was like, this is not what I expected. And so it's in that, it's in the not knowing, in the ignorance. And I know it's not her fault that she's ignorant. We don't talk about this. But I think that you could do yourself such a service if you're like, I don't know what this is that I'm dealing with right now. My mind is racing a mile a minute. I have so many things that I need to do. I don't know who I am anymore outside of motherhood. I'm spending time here doing this thing. That's not fruitful anymore because it's taking away from my family. I'm feeling guilt because I can't do the things that I used to be able to do before. My biggest loss in motherhood was not being able to independently practice my self-care rituals. I cannot do that in the same way that I used to before. So you experience the losses, you experience all of these things. And I think what we do is we say, well, this is what motherhood is supposed to be like. I'm supposed to give up so much of myself. I'm supposed to, and not that you just do because that's just what happens. But we got to recognize it in the moment and say, whoa, this feels like I am losing myself, whatever that loss looks like for you. I don't feel the same. I don't feel like I quite got this, right? Like something's not right about this. Something doesn't feel good about this. And the truth is, it's not, and this is another term in matrescence, is this sort of like reality versus fantasy. You go into motherhood with this sort of fantasy of what it's going to look like. And people tell you, like, this is the happiest time of your life. Like, you should be this or you should be that. But reality is, it's very challenging. It's hard. And so once that reality hits you, I want you to dig into matrescence.
Yeah.
Because the minute you dig into matrescence, it's like these light bulbs go off, these moments of clarity. You feel validated in your experience. You now have a term, and words create worlds. You now have a term that you can use to explain to other people, no, this is what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. And so it's the self-sabotage is taking all of this into your own hands and saying, I can do something about this. My narrative doesn't need to be like this because some other mother has told me that this was her experience. This is what she went through, and this is what I'm going to go through as well. A lot of what we go through is going to be universal. But your experience of motherhood, your matrescence journey can be very much your journey. And so if that sort of answers your question in terms of self-sabotage, it's like, let's just not sit through this and just ride it out. Let's take control of this.
Absolutely. I mean, it more than answers my question. And it's sitting with me on so many levels too, because I'm sure on this call we have, people who are mothers, right? But an experience, and part of the reason why I was like, yes, let's definitely have this conversation was I do not have my own children. However, I took in one of my nieces to care for her for about 5 months. And when I walked into it, it was like, it's going to be fine. I am a coach for women. My niece is going through a lot of things. So when she comes, we will have a weekly coaching session. And we did, right? Like, I'm going to create a new structure for her. She's going to have a new sleep schedule. She's going to eat well, all that stuff, right? And I did create that container and that space for her. And then on top of that, what also happened was I noticed my niece was using my my vitamins, because I have a lot of vitamins I need to get my minerals. And so instead of being like, hey, here, I see you're using the vitamins, here are your own, I stopped taking my vitamins so that she could have them. Wild. She also sleeps forever. I mean, she's not here anymore, but she sleeps forever. So instead of me now sitting with her, right, and figuring out, like, she's living in an adolescent space, she don't care about anything that I do, right? Like,
very egotistical.
She's not thinking about what her actions are and how they affect me. So instead, what I did was I started waking up earlier. I started going to the gym at an earlier hour, trying to rush to get myself ready for a certain amount of time, because then I knew she was going to operate at this specific time. So now my whole schedule was thrown off. I stopped eating inside my apartment because like she was in a space where if I was cooking, it would affect her. Like, I just let go of all these things that I was doing to take care of myself. Make her comfortable, as opposed to like finding a middle ground and being able to address my needs. Because if I'm not whole and if I'm not well, how can she be?
Absolutely. If you're not taking your vitamins, you're not, you know what I mean? It's an impact.
Yes. And I'm not practicing what I preach either.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That will happen. That by nature is, God designed it in that way. right? That we are going to self-sacrifice. At some point, we recognize like, oh, I don't need to completely like self-sacrifice in that sense. I don't need to completely let go of this thing because I still need to sustain myself. I still need to be able to take care of myself because if I can't, we hear it all the time. You put your own mask on before you put your child's mask on, right? Like if I can't sustain myself, I won't be here to be able to do this for this child or be in good health to be able to be present for this child in the way that I need to. So how do I prioritize my needs while I'm also prioritizing my family's needs? It's a lot of readjusting and figuring out like how do I make it work. And I don't ascribe to work-life balance or any, I don't see balance being a realistic thing in motherhood. And so personally, it has been over the last couple of years figuring out how do I just create a harmonious blend between everything, between my life, my work as an entrepreneur, marriage, between household stuff and caregiving. How do I create harmony within all of it? Because if I try to balance things, something is not going to completely be 50-50 or equilibrium like I think it's going to be. And so if today all I was able to give is 40%, that 40% is my 100 because that's all I was able to give. And I gave all that I had and it was only 40, right? And so some area of my life is not going to get 50 like that. It's going to get 40. Some other area is going to get 60. I learned this, what's the term for it? It's not an analogy, but anyway, I use this all the time with clients is I don't know if you've heard about this before, but rubber balls and glass balls. And so, okay. So there are things that we hold that are very dear to us. They're like our values, right? Like the responsibilities, tasks, all of those things that we carry and we hold. Some of those things that we carry are going to be rubber balls. Rubber balls, you drop them, they bounce. We're good. You know, you can pick it up and keep going. Now, when you drop a glass balls shatter. So when they shatter, that means it's a little bit harder to put it back together. You can piece it together. You can use a little bit of gold paint and make it look pretty and all of that. But when it shatters, it shatters. And so learning what are the glass balls in my life and what are the rubber balls in my life? Because the rubber balls, I have support there, or I have somebody, I can delegate that. I can outsource that. I can offload it. But this glass ball, that's mine to carry. And if I drop this is going to have an impact. And so I learned to recognize those glass balls in my life and say, this is non-negotiable for me. Being home with my child and being present with my child, that's a glass ball for me. That is non-negotiable. And I apologize, I have a cold and my voice is going. That's a glass ball in my life. And so this thing is going to take more priority over other things. And so this isn't going to be a 50-50 thing. It's going to be like whatever number I give it, and I'm giving it my all in this area, because if I drop that ball, it shatters, there's some repercussions for that. Now, if I don't wash the dishes, I don't do the laundry today, I don't cook a nutritious meal today, that's a rubber ball. We're going to be fine. But there are certain things that are going to be a glass ball, your rubber balls, and they're not all going to be balanced. And that's okay.
And that's okay. That's okay. Y'all told me I had to write that down on the side. Again, but the glass balls and rubber balls, I love that. Y'all, if you have questions for Vanessa, please put them in the chat. And specifically because what you are also saying is not just something to consider as a person who is a mother. Like this is just womanhood, right? Because like there's a level of taking care of the world that is connected to womanhood too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is our indoctrination into motherhood, you know, that we have this, what's called like the maternal mandate, that you are a woman. And so you are mandated to be nurturing because that's what mothers do. You are going to be mandated to carry yourself in a certain way because that's what mothers do, because there's this sort of expectation that you will be a mother at some point. But we have that's placed on us anyway. Societal, you know, that's placed on us. And so it's so important that we recognize at some point, wherever that is, and I say some point because wherever that is in your journey, when you finally realize like, oh, I need to take care of myself. Like I need to prioritize me. I need to put me first. I coach women who are therapists themselves and who are also mothers to go when they go into private practice. I tell them to build a you-centered life first business. And any business that you're going into, it needs to be you-centered life first in terms of your business model.
Yep.
Because that business needs to support what you see as your lifestyle, what you see as your vision, what you see as your wellness needs, what you see as your your family first, whatever that thing is that needs to come first, your business needs to be sort of built in that way. It's the same thing with womanhood. Anything that I do at this point is it you centered and is it life first? Because that's a priority in my life. That's a value in my life.
Absolutely. Give us all one concrete example of something that we could all do to shift to make something you-centered for us.
Oh, that's good. So if there's anything that any endeavor, any project that you are working on right now, and we do this, we labor hard on things. Like when we're a birthing business, we are birthing businesses, we are birthing projects, we are birthing tasks. I don't care if you're working on your bathroom wall or you're working on a 6-figure business, right? We are birthing something.
Yeah.
And so you have to really sit and consider, what time do I have for this? What's my energy for this? What's my capacity for this? How will I make sure that my needs are being met? My wellness needs, my basic wellness needs, right? But how will I also make sure I have time for rest, restoration? I have time to do the things that I love that bring me joy. And how do I do this with ease? How do I make sure that my life, you're going to be in seasons of hustle, and I get that, right? But how do I also hustle and make sure that I'm still taken care of? Right. And so whatever that project is, it's saying, let me take care of me first. Let me see what this looks like for me right now. And then what that capacity looks like. Now I can plan the project. Now I can plan the bathroom demolition. Now I can plan the business because I've made sure that I've put me at the center of it. And I've made sure that my life is first. For those who have families, it's having those conversations with your family, with your partner, and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing. I need to make sure we're good before I dive into this. So that's one way that I would sort of.
And I love that. And the piece in there that like is also really speaking to me. And then if you have the time, I have a question from someone in the chat, Desley. So the thing that's coming up for me too is just like being super comfortable with things not being the way status quo shows you things need to be, right? So I'm very clear with people about I said it earlier, like I have a lot of anxiety in the morning, so you will not find me at 9 a.m. Like, yes, John, it's not going to happen, right? But then also maybe just from years of being in school, tasks that people would do at 7 a.m., it would take me 2 hours. If I do that at 1:05 a.m., it's done in 10 minutes. I don't know what it is about me, but I'm so productive, so clear after midnight. It's wild. Which means that I have had to create, and this isn't an option for everyone, right? Like I work for myself, and even when I didn't work for myself, I still found ways to make this happen through like power naps and sleeping, all of that stuff, right? I am aware of the fact that like I can pour more into the work or the projects that I'm doing if I do it on its time and a schedule that works for my body and my mind.
Absolutely.
Which I have to let go of this whole 9 to 5 thing. The early bird gets the worm. Take the worm. I didn't want worms anyway.
Yeah. Right.
So, okay. I wanted what was happening at nighttime, right? So that shift is super important. And in order to do that, you have to be paying attention to when you have periods of I'm really available to talk right now. So I'm going to have my window of time to talk from 1 o'clock to 4. That's when I have my meetings. This is my time when my brain is on fire. Like all of those things are super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what the you-centered approach is. It's really being self-aware of what my needs are, how I operate best, my capacity, my energy levels, my values, what's important for me, and putting that at the center of everything that you do.
Exactly. So you have time for a question, and
I
before you
do.
tell people what the gift is. Okay, so Desley says, I've had a hard time juggling motherhood, working full time, and creating my own business. I've started creating more boundaries and only working on what really matters, but I've come to the realization that building my business is going to take much longer than I wanted, and that's unsettling to me, especially as I'm about to be 40 wonderful years old. How can I shift my mindset to be more at peace with the pace?
Yeah, that's such a, is this Desi who asked this question?
Lead, am I pronouncing it correctly? Put it in the chat. That's a beautiful question. And thank you for
Desley.
being so open and honest about your reality.
I love that question because I can so empathize with you. I'm building a second business right now on top of the one that I already have with private practice. And in my coaching with women who are building business, mothers who are building businesses themselves, particularly private practice, I teach them what I call the ease method, because it's not, you're holding too much. There's too many glass balls and rubber balls. They're all over the place. You're going through daily life, mental load, the being the default parent as a mother, all of that, right? And I'll be 40 next year as well, so I get it. You're holding all of that, and the problem is that there are all these external pressures that have now become internalized that's telling you whatever image, Desley, that you've built now at this point about where you need to be by 40, because just the fact that you said that in your question, that's a really big that's a really big deal for you. There's some narrative that you're holding around there about 40 years old and where you need to be at 40 and what that looks like as a mother, as a wife, as an ambitious career woman. There's something that you're holding there. There's a narrative that you're holding there that I think needs to be explored a little bit, to say, why am I holding on to this? And if this doesn't feel good and it's making me feel pressure, it's making me feel anxiety, it's making me feel worse, birthing things shouldn't feel like that. There's a feminine energy around it that it does not need to feel like that. It should feel like ease. It should feel like joy. It should feel, so when I work with the women that I work with, when I teach them the ease method, if you're out of alignment with what should feel like the ease method, should feel like ease and joy, we got to recalibrate somewhere. Is it in your belief systems? Is it in your work ethics? Is it in maybe something external happening at home that's not allowing this to come to fruition in the ways that you want it to? So it's assessing all of those things and saying, where am I out of alignment with how this should be joyful and this should be with ease right now in my life? So I would invite you to sort of ask yourself those questions, and then it'll come to you, and you'll know, you'll feel it, you'll recognize it, and then pulling back on that. So it's not just the boundary work, but it's really like, where am I out of alignment with what's supposed to feel good right now? So I hope that answers your question. Numbers hold us hostage. Your 40 is not my 40. My 40 is not Vanessa's 40, and so on and so forth. I love that.
Yes. I mean,
Absolutely.
age plays a role in a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
Like age plays a role in a lot of different things, and not the reality of
Thank you,
too much.
Desley. Yeah, I've realized my 40, I turned 39 just this past month, and I've realized, like, I feel like I'm becoming, I don't, I did it. So this will be the last thing that I share. I did this exercise back in grad school. And so in grad school, you typically have like people from different cohorts. You know, there's some older folks, some younger folks, and there were some 20-year-olds there. I was in my late 20s at that point. There was some 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50, 60. And we had a woman who was in her 80s. And our instructor at the time put us all in like circles, like almost like I want to call them Russian dolls, but not Russian dolls, but like they put us in circles. So the middle were like the younger folks, and then you have the 30, the 40, and that's right. And so we were all talking about like lessons and different things and what we're in a rush for. And I remember the 40-year-old saying, like, what are y'all talking about? Like, why are you rushing for this? And 50 saying something, 60 saying something, 80 saying something. I was like, you know what? I'm looking forward to aging, because it sounds like when you get to 60, 70 years old, you don't give about anything. So I'm looking forward to what it looks like. And so that gave me perspective to say, I don't need to be on anybody else's timeline except my own. I don't need to look beside me. I don't look, it's going to happen because I'm human, but I need to remind myself, I don't need to look at somebody else's timeline and say that needs to be mine. I don't need to look at somebody else's picture of life and say mine should look like that. So I love what Aloria said. That was really beautiful. Aloria, yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
appreciate that.
Vanessa, can y'all just commit to me right now? Just send me a text message and say, I will do my own 1 hour conversation with Anuma. Okay, so what do you have to offer this wonderful group of women?
Yeah. So I have two resources that have already sort of been built into my businesses already. So I have a matrescence guide. I work primarily with women of color. And so anything that I I speak from the lens of a woman of color myself as a Black Cape Verdean woman. This is a lens that I speak from. So I created a guide for women of color who are going through matrescence, and that is on my website, my private practice website. And then because I also work with mothers who are in mothers who are therapists and want to go into private practice, or they are in private practice and want to optimize and build their businesses. I also have a quiz for them that identifies like where the private practice pitfall is. So that's very nuanced and very specific to that population. But if you want to learn more about matrescence, I have that free guide for you on my website.
Yay. Thank you, Vanessa.
No problem. No, this was beautiful. I think my son is still sleeping for his naps. I'm gonna hang around.
Please do. Please do.
Yes,
So y'all can talk to
absolutely.
Vanessa in the chat now that it's enabled.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Y'all, if you have gotten a little nugget or something, just put that in the chat. Show me a reaction, something. Before we get our next guest, I just want to share just a little bit really quickly. They keep bringing up assessments, right? And you can do an assessment on your own. You can do an assessment with one of us, and I'll share a little bit more about the assessment that I have specifically. But coming to know yourself and understanding yourself and what it is that is going on within you and where it is that you can like continue to move forward, etc. That's going to be super important. It's going to be super important. It enables you to continue to just like move on and like take action within your life. So assessments. Okay, y'all. It's so much. There's so much. There's so many wonderful people. And why am I so shiny? My next person, Samaya Ahmed. She is what don't I say about you? She is a Ivy League educated, phenomenal woman who is doing the work to help people like really clear blocks, right? Because a lot of times that's what it is. We may have these feelings of being stuck or may not even be aware of like how stuck we are. And she is doing amazing work in many different ways, using many different modalities to help individuals get unstuck. Samaya, come on. How you doing?
Hello. You're doing very good. It's been so good listening to all of you powerful women. I'm like pumped up and ready.
Yay. Okay, so go ahead. Tell people who you is and who you ain't. Samaya, go ahead, share.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Samaya. I am a certified hypnotherapist and also a manifestation coach. I am graduating from Columbia University in May with my master's in psychology with a focus on spirituality. And my main focus really and my mission is to help women of color and daughters of immigrants to release anything that doesn't serve them and really begin living a more fulfilling life.
Didn't I tell y'all she was amazing? Just wait till she continues opening her Ivy League mouth. Yes. I love this. I love this. Okay, so let's literally hop right in. You have tons of knowledge and then also experience as well when it comes to working with women, women of color, women who are the daughters of immigrants. Like, what are you finding are the main ways that they are self-sabotaging right now?
Whoa, so many different ones, but I think the main three that come to mind, definitely imposter syndrome, lots of self-doubt, and the need for validation. I think if you guys hear the horns, that is the universe confirming that this is what's happening. Yeah, so the need for validation, imposter syndrome, and self-doubt.
Okay.
Three.
Dig deeper. What are you noticing, even like specifically for women of color? What's been coming up the most for them out of those three?
I would say definitely the need for validation. And that's what I like my clients right now, all of them, different walks of life, women that are from all different areas, and still the main thing that we're working on, need for validation. And this stems back from generations, right? So when we're doing the work, it's not just, oh, what happened in your childhood? It's, okay, what happened with your mother, and what happened with your grandmother, and what is the walks of life like? Where do you originate from? We can go generations back to find this need for validation being a problem that now comes in through our DNA into our reality and our existence.
Okay, so, I'm going to ask you, how have you experienced this yourself?
Yeah, okay. So okay, this one specific scenario that comes to mind. So when I started to do this work, obviously I started to do it a lot on myself before I began to do this as a career. And as I got to know myself, I noticed that, so before I went to Columbia, I was at Harvard doing my master's in biology. And when I was there, I noticed that every time that I would personally raise my hand to be like, I'm going to go present first for this one, or I'm going to answer this question that the professor is asking, I would still be nervous. My palms are sweating, my chest is pounding. And I never understood it, because I'm like, I'm personally raising my hand to put myself out there. Why would I be nervous? So I started to do the work and couldn't find it myself. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Let me work with a coach. So it's one of the women that I graduated with when I was getting certified. And as I did the work, it went down to the need for validation. And I was like, oh, this feels very unrelated, but okay, maybe let's dig deeper. Went back to a time when I was literally 4 or 5 years old, coming home with my straight A report card. And instead of being like, oh my God, I just got straight A's, I was shaking coming home to see, like, okay, what is my mom gonna say? What is my dad gonna say? Are we proud of this? Like, I needed to be validated to be like, oh my God, Samaya, great job. So since that day going forward, now every time I'm speaking or every time I'm doing things or even achieving these big goals and dreams, I need other people to validate me, or I'm looking for these external words or external applauses or external things to make me feel like, oh, you did a great job. So this then stemmed into those classrooms and the times where I'm like presenting or anything, because before I speak, I'm thinking, what I say resonate with everyone? Will what I say actually be smart enough? Will what I say actually be good enough? Will what I say really be the right thing to say right now? So all these questions are then steaming into my mind when it all started when I was a little child, needing that validation to even feel good. So oftentimes when we're doing this work, we come across those things where we're like, oh, I didn't know this situation was even related to this. But as you dig deep, you find the reasons why the need for validation even exists in your life, and how it's actually negatively impacting all these different areas of your life.
Mm. Okay, so as a young Nigerian American girl who also went to Harvard, all these things are speaking to me, right? Like, y'all, we worked so hard to get to where we were, and then look at us silencing ourselves. What's going on? What's going on? So, like, what are some of the things that you encourage like women of color to be doing to be able to address some of this?
Yeah. So the first thing, again, like the part that I wanted to really emphasize was, I didn't think that specific scenario had anything to do with my need for validation. So when we, as women of color, recognize that, oh, I have this issue, sometimes we're not digging, and most of the time, we're still on the surface level. We're at our conscious state of mind, which is the part of your mind everyone's using right now to listen to me. But the part of your mind that's actually doing all this work on autopilot 24/7, from the moment you take your first breath to the moment you take your last one, is your subconscious mind. So your unconscious mind is the part of your mind that's attracting 95% of your reality. And so in this part of the mind, we have our memories, our emotions, our beliefs, our values, our self-image, our perspective on life, on who we are, what we believe to be true, what we don't believe to be true. All of this, your emotions, your feelings, are stored and generated in your subconscious mind. And so for just a need for validation alone, if we're like, okay, I have this issue, let's get in touch with your subconscious mind. Now, there's so many ways to do this, but let's say you're doing this on your own and you're like, okay, how do I actually get in touch? So after you identify that you have this need for validation, go through the increments of your life. You could do like 5-year increments, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and really take a moment to ask yourself, what happened during these 5-year increments in my life? And it could be anything, right? Don't just be like, okay, what in my life showed need for validation. It's just in general. What did I experience growing up? Who was I surrounded by? How was my dynamic with the people that raised me? What was the environment that raised me? What schools did I attend, right? Or what was a traumatic event that may have happened in my life? What were some wins that I had and how did I feel when I had those? So really getting into these nitty-gritties of what happened in the past will help you identify, oh, when I was a child and I came home with my report card and I asked these questions in my mind, this might be related to my need for validation. Now let's get deeper into that first memory of when I was 5 and get to the root of that, right? So when I do this with my clients, we're doing it through hypnotherapy or time techniques. Like you said, I do so many different modalities to really get to that root. But again, you can journal this out. You can really get to that root through your subconscious because your subconscious has all the answers. And once you get there, now it's time to reframe and reshift. So I know when Sasha was talking, a lot of the things she was saying, I'm like, oh my God, this is everything I do. I'm in the right place. Like we're all doing a lot of the similar things. And she talked about too, about reframing things when she was shifting with the self-care and the boundaries and stuff. So same thing with here, we're shifting. Somebody asked in the chat, like, did you stop asking those questions? I did stop asking those questions because now when I show up and now that I've done the work and heal that and don't need to look externally for what I already have inside of me, I show up like, I already got it. I'm going to say what I got to say because it just planted into my mind because I need to say it. I
Mm.
have this voice to speak for a reason. Not everybody, unfortunately, was gifted with this voice to speak. So if I have this God-given talent, why not speak? Who is
Mhm.
stopping me from speaking? If
Yeah.
I'm in this room, in Harvard's classroom, I have every right to speak. So regardless of what room I'm in, I have a right to speak. And so reminding myself of those things, giving myself the tools to even ground myself, which I think somebody else mentioned too. So like grounding myself into I'm okay or exactly where I'm at. And so combining these, releasing, grounding yourself, knowing that you can talk and have this God-given gift, that's how we shift from needing the validation and now knowing that you have everything inside you.
Yes. I mean, what you're bringing up is like part of sourcing that internally is being the voice of the validation yourself, right? Like, what
Mhm.
are you saying to yourself? Self-talk is so important. And how
Yep.
are you empowering yourself, which is something that personally I found I accessed more through journaling. Right. And so sometimes people are like, oh, I got to journal every day. No, you don't. You can journal when you feel moved to for sure. But like having a consistent practice is important because I started journaling 3 years ago when I decided to quit my job and started looking deeply into my relationship. And when I look at my journaling from 3 years ago, I was not kind to myself. And just being able to see how it is that I was talking about my reality. And now when I journal, like no lie, I will take a picture of this. Y'all, I'm not fudging this. I will literally at the end of what I've said say like, I love you, Anuma. Go girl, I'm proud of you. All of these things. And I was not like that before. I was not like
Mhm.
that before at all because I also sourced all of my validation and even just the way that I felt about myself and my reality from other people, right? So the language that you use with yourself is super important. And again, you're hitting on the piece again of like doing that assessment of self, like really just like a full evaluation of all the things.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily have to do it on your own because that can be really overwhelming. It can be
Yeah.
really overwhelming just to get the information, let alone doing that. So I'm glad that you're offering that up as well through the different modalities that you have. So, all right. Okay. You speaking to us, you telling us all these different things. What can we do now? There are only a couple more days left until 2024, and 2024 does not have any time for us acting like
Yeah.
this. So, what
Yeah.
can we do now, or even start thinking about right now to start shifting this need for external validation?
Yeah. So just really asking yourself what is affiliated with this need for validation? Because a lot of the times those emotions and beliefs aren't the same for each and every one of us. It's different things. So let's just say, for example, your need for validation is also associated with I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, whatever, right? Not really feeling enough. So that at that point, you've now identified a limiting belief. So a way for you to switch this on your own before you even head into 2024, write that limiting belief down. And then I want you to come up with at least 5 reasons why that limiting belief is not true. come up with at least 5 reasons why this belief is absolutely not true, right? So if it's not good enough, like find those times in your life where you did feel good enough, right? Find those times in your life where you can actually say, okay, this is a reason why my worth has nothing to do with my degree. This is why my worth has nothing to do with the career I'm having right now. This is why my worth has nothing to do with who's my mother and who's my father, right? Finding all those reasons and then now shifting that belief to an empowering belief instead. So what can, like Anuma was saying, that self-talk, so switching from I am not good enough to now what can I say when I look at myself in the mirror? That my birthright, my worth, being worthy is my birthright. That's one, right? So coming up with different things that you can now reframe anytime anything in life hinders you and makes you question again, are you worthy or do you need that validation again? You'll have these listed down to be like, yep, I already have 5 empowering beliefs in my head that I can now switch over to.
Mm-hmm. So awesome and very practical, very easy to do after you finish this call. I'm going to add one more question, and it's from Sarita. She put in the chat, and if you have questions, just put them in the Q&A so that I don't miss them. So Sarita asked, like, what are some of the main differences that in the issues that we're facing from like people who have immigrant backgrounds versus people who are, you know, whatever you are, African, Caribbean, American, and those families. You know what I mean? You see the difference between it? Because even for me, like I'm Nigerian American, I was raised here in the States. My reality as far as how I'm trying to move things forward is different because I have the Nigerian culture, I have the American culture, and I can choose. Whereas a cousin of mine who is Nigerian, born and raised in Nigeria, it's different. There's one understanding of a way of being and of life. So how do people kind of like navigate that from your perspective?
That's actually a good one because this is something I recently I haven't talked about this much in my world or on my social media, and it's something that's been coming up a lot, especially in terms of therapy of like the Western and the Eastern culture. And so like you said, like me too, being born and raised in New York City, we have like these two things that we're carrying with us, our culture, our religion, and whatever traditions, and also this Western world. So finding the balance between the two. I feel like the question, I don't know, I think the person Sarita is more asking about the differences between immigrant backgrounds and African American backgrounds.
Share more, Sarita, so we can make
Yeah.
sure we
Because if that's
directly
specifically, I'm not sure I have the answer for that specific question, but in the terms of how you actually asked it, I think yeah, there's a huge like the way if I were working with somebody who's strictly from Bangladesh. So my family's from Bangladesh, and there's a huge difference on how I was raised and how my cousins in just Bangladesh was raised. So if they're coming to me with again the need for validation, which still can be very real for them in Bangladesh, it would be the same way we navigate the system, the same exact scenarios that are or techniques or methods that I would use for me or anybody else living in the States would be the same exact ones used for anyone else elsewhere. It's just the walk of life, the story you have, and the goal you have might be different from what I have here in New York. So regardless of what the thing is, I think the way to get to your goal of not needing to have validation from anything externally is still the same.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
that's
yes,
it. So yeah,
differences
the
between
differences between the issues of Black people,
yeah.
of immigrant parents versus those who are African Americans. There we go. Thank you for the clarification. And that is even a bigger conversation too.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm like,
and
I don't know if we could dive into that right now.
I know, but we don't have enough time to dive into that. And then also just being able to have perspectives, because the thing with that question too is having people speak for themselves as well, right?
Right.
Because you know, even just my experience of my Blackness is very different from someone else's experience who is also Nigerian American or Caribbean American, or you know, so it's really important that like we have a larger conversation around that. And so Sarita, maybe we'll have a follow-up on that, and have it be more of like a forum so people can like give voice to their experience, even yours if you have some. All right, you're amazing. All of y'all are amazing. I keep saying this and I just like want to expressing this. So tell them what you have to offer, please.
Yes. So if you are looking to release the need for validation or anything, honestly, that's currently blocking you from stepping into a more fulfilling life or being your true authentic self where you're not afraid to be you and the real you, then I am offering up a one-on-one session with me for hypnotherapy. Like Anuma said, I do offer other modalities as well. So if you come in and you're like, oh, I want to try time techniques or emotional freedom technique, that's open too. But again, this is just a one-on-one session. Release one specific thing that's no longer serving you so that you can begin living a more fulfilling life. And if you use the code THRIVE at checkout, you'll have a nice discount at the end.
Yes. So Thrive, THRIVE. Please put that. And again, like I said, I will share all of this stuff at the end with you all. Samaya, you are great. You are awesome. Thank you for having this conversation. And Sarita, I got you. I got you, girl. We are going to have many more spaces. And I will definitely make sure that we have space for you all to talk to. And we're not just talking to you. All right. So y'all, we're coming up to the end, but before I bring on my last speaker, I keep harping on the whole assessment piece. And I want to just like plug in something that like even I think Emmanuel, you got me, made a comment earlier about like human design. So there are tons of assessments that are out there. Like I said before, not every assessment is made the same, and not all assessments are like based in, strong foundations of information, knowledge, and then also like have a lot of reliability to be able to give you the information that you need to move forward. I use an assessment specifically called an IEQ 9. It is an Enneagram-based assessment that is a personality typing tool similar to Myers-Briggs, but completely different in that this specific assessment not only identifies the core motivation for your behavior, like why do you choose to do the things that you do, but it also gives you like a full life kind of assessment. So it brings up all the different pieces of like how you orient with other individuals, how you orient with yourself, some possible like suggestions for what you can do to like live in a more healthier version of yourself. But even more than that, it does not put you in a box, right? It's not, I am this one thing, because that's not realistic. It's more of, here is what motivates me to behave. And then I can access all of the other things that other people are doing as well to improve the way that I am. It's kind of like, sounds a little muddy, but I see one of my clients who I have actually done this assessment with here. I am going to Aloria. I'm trying to build suspense. I'm going to put that in here. So there's someone who I've done this assessment with who is on this call, Bacardi. I'm going to have Bacardi speak to it because I don't think I'm even giving it enough. Bacardi, are you here? You here? Hold on. Let me see. How do I bring you in? Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can y'all hear her? Please put it in the chat. Yes.
Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
Awesome. Okay, so
Okay.
Bacardi, please
Yes, ma'am.
speak.
Yes, well, hello there. This has been great. I just want to say that first. I've been thoroughly enjoying all of this. So thank you, thank you, thank you for putting this on, Anuma. But yes, this assessment, this Enneagram, I can say so many things. So let me start here. First of all, when I took the assessment, when I was told about the assessment, it was at a point in my life where I really was like, okay, things aren't working out well. It's time for change. I am tired of how things have been going and how I've been doing life up to this point, up to that point. And it was a bunch of confusion. And what I realized is I don't know how to be anything else. And so it's like it's that point where you realize, hey, I need to change, but into what, or understand what about myself in order to move forward. And so the assessment was about maybe 40 questions or so. So it wasn't ridiculously long, but it was very, very detailed. And what came out of that assessment blew my mind about me. I'm a person that I've done many other assessments. I've been on this self-discovery track for a while now, but this assessment, this report from the assessment really gave me insight as to why I do what I do, why I have done why I have done what I've done in the past. And it also gave me a bunch of blind spots that I did not know that I had, which forced me to look at myself in the mirror and make some changes. So yeah, what else could I just ask me anything? Because I can go on and on and on. So I want to make sure I'm answering to you, to you all specifically.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, we're on a tight timeline because you know I
I
like
know.
time.
I know.
But I mean, I wanted to give you the space to even say that I appreciate you for being open and honest about where you were. So in the chat, I put a link to my website specifically so you can learn a little bit more about the Enneagram itself. And then I'm going to actually put a link, and this is super important to use this specific link to book because this link has 50% off of how much my session is. So essentially, Bacardi, I just want you to speak a little bit more to like the piece around understanding what has been motivating your behavior. Could you share a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, well, I'll say this. My number was a 2, which was considerate helper. So a lot of what I realized about myself as a result of this report is that to someone's point, I think one of your speakers spoke about not being enough or just other childhood and adolescence things that brought up this. So not understanding why I was so passionate about helping and doing things for other people was a big part of this. And what I learned from this assessment is that sometimes my motivations aren't real genuine. My motivations were really about being a people pleaser. And that on one hand was new information for me because I thought I was literally doing this out of the kindness of my heart. Like I genuinely did things for others or put others first or while my intention is to always, be kind and do good things for other people, but it was with an outcome attached to it that I was not aware of. So those blind spots, like I said, it blew my mind. It really showed me in a whole new light. And as a result, yeah, I move a lot differently now. I make decisions differently as a result.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Bacardi, please, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank you for showing
I
up.
appreciate you. Yes, I appreciate you more than I can even express.
Yay.
Seriously.
So within our session, essentially, so you get to take that assessment. I provide you with all of your results, and it is a comprehensive PDF with over 20 pages of information for you. And so within our session, I help you to better understand what is it saying to you. So we talk a little bit about what motivates your behavior. We talk about what motivates the behavior of all of the other types. And then what are the specific types you can tap into in order to balance yours in a more healthy way. And then you come with an issue, right? So Bacardi came to me with an issue. And what we did together was we used the information of her type, the core motivation, and then we tackled that issue and came up with strategies, awareness, and like practical things that she could continue to do to integrate into her life. And I will say right now, where Bacardi was when we started and where she is now is completely different. And it is not just because of the assessment. It is not just because of our coaching session. It's because of Bacardi. She was ready for that. An assessment will show you who you are. So when you are ready for that, definitely book a session with me. I highly recommend the IEQ9 specifically. And I will say Bacardi just started a new job this week where she's out here directing. And it's literally a job that she was trying to build a business for. Like literally, she wrote out what she wanted to do as her own business owner, had an awareness of the fact that she did not want to be a business owner. She wanted to be an entrepreneur and do this with another company. And then I don't even know how long it was, like maybe a month or two later, exactly what Bacardi wanted to do, she is now doing for a company and making bank. And I love it. I love it. She took the chance. So I'm done. I'm coming off my high horse. I'm done. Book a session. Those sessions, that rate specifically is for you all. You can book a session from now until the end of January. And then if you have any questions, obviously, like y'all can reach out to me. But we have one more speaker. Yes, congrats, Bacardi. Give it all to Bacardi. Amazing. We have one more speaker. Y'all doing okay? Put it in the chat. Show me a reaction. Are y'all doing okay out there? Because our next speaker is going to really push us to think very differently about how we assess our life on a whole spectrum. Because we've been talking about very specific things like little slivers of our life, etc. This speaker is going to talk about the importance of how a full life evaluation is just, it can change everything for you. So Jen, actually, let me not say Jen. Dr. Jennifer Madu She doesn't like when I call her doctor, but I'm going to say
No.
because you are. Hello. Thank you.
Hello.
Please tell everybody who you are and who you are not.
So my name is Jennifer Madu. I am a psychiatric nurse practitioner, but I have a special focus that I'm not just to give you medication management, but I'm also invested in understanding you as a person and how situations affect your life that brought you into my office, and how I can help you, not just with medication, but what are things going around in your home that may be affecting your mental health?
Yes. So we had this conversation, and honestly, I didn't even tell you I was doing a summit. She knows. I didn't tell her I was doing a summit. I was just like, I saw your card and I see the name of your company and I feel like you're Nigerian. I just want to talk to you. Let's just talk about this. And we got into this conversation about like how much we may overlook how our environment plays a role in our physical and our mental health, and not just on a surface, like on a deeper level. So remember, I told everyone, I don't think you were here yet, but I told everyone in the beginning that 3 years ago, I was within an amazing job at the height of my career, and I was experiencing 3 months of migraines. Y'all, I went to every MRI. I had a shot put in my thigh. I had medication, everything. Nothing changed my experiences of migraines. And then I quit my job and I started to take a step back and look at what was going on. I kid you not, within a week, I had no more migraines at all. And it had to have been something else, right? So like talk to us a little bit more about like how important it is to just look at our lives as a whole, right? When it comes to understanding our mental health and our physical health.
Yes, when a client comes into my office, the first thing they look is I have a picture that shows that I care for you, my dear, but there's only so much that Mr. Medication and I can do for you. A lot of times, especially in minority groups, people tend to, in terms of the stressors that they're facing, they may not know that. So for example, a client will come in and say, hey, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm dealing, not doing too well. And it's important as a provider or any provider or psychiatric provider you're looking for or looking into, that they're very invested in your social history, like understanding who you are, what brought you in the office. So in terms of how was your childhood? How are you in terms of your family? How are you in terms of your finances, your relationships? And a lot of times when I ask clients this, sometimes they're like taken aback because they're like, aren't you just going to give me medication? Like, I'm just here to like get a pill and move on. I'm like, no, it's more than that. Because those type of situational factors can affect your quality of life. So for your example, right, I get clients who come in and say, I'm dealing with headaches, I'm feeling depressed, I don't want to get out of bed. But I'll ask them, what are your circumstances in terms of your home? And they'll be like, well, what do you mean? Well, I already reviewed kind of your history, and you talked to me like you're having a very bad day at your job. You don't know how you're going to make ends meet in terms of your finances. Your husband or your partner are not doing too well. How are you addressing that? Because I can give you all the medication in the world, but if you're not addressing that, the medication is not going to really do anything for you. Because my goal ultimately is, I believe in medication management, but I also believe you need to fix certain things in your life, because too many times, especially whether you're Black, Latino, or whoever, whatever minority class, sometimes we overlook what's going on in our home, what's going on internally in terms of like personal traumas, caregiver burnout. These are all things that can affect you internally and then can come out externally, whether that's headaches, tummy ache, feeling very fatigued. These all play a role in terms of your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about like medication or use of medications, and there's, medication like actually a pill that we can use, but there are other ways that also we self-medicate. Can you tell us a little bit more about like what would be a healthy relationship, right, with medication for us? And not just, again, the pills, but other ways that we self-medicate. Because sometimes, and I think you were mentioning this before in our conversation, people may be on medication and then end up experiencing side effects from the medication that are completely unnecessary, but all they really needed to do was go back and address some of the social things that were going around with them. So how do we know we have a healthy relationship with medication?
It depends on with the client when they come in. So there are certain clients that will have to be on medication long term due to their genetics. And there's other clients where I look at, when I'm starting on a medication, they should be a beginning and an end, right? Because too many times, especially when you're looking for a psych provider, you want to make sure they're invested in their care plan, whereby when they're starting on a medication, because they know like the stressors that you're under, at that point, you may need a bit of a medication to help you, plus with therapy management, that, you know, from 6 months to a year, and then also working with your therapist, the goal will be, hopefully, if those situational stressors, you know, have resolved, then often I will go and review with the client. So you seem to check off like things are doing well with your husband or with your partner or with your finances. Hey, you've been on this medication for about, you know, 6 months or a year. You know, maybe we should like, let's see if we can taper you off the medication. And they're like, oh, really? I thought I would need to be on this for a long time. I said, no, a lot of this, your mood was, a lot of it was situational. Your situational stressors have resolved. I think we don't need to put you on medication long term. You don't want to have a provider who's never invested in your personal well-being, especially if it's situational stressors. I'm not talking about, you know, the genetics of people who have, you know, long-term history of depression or severe mental illness, schizophrenia. I'm talking about your mental health was affected because of situations that occurred in you, occurring around you. How do we fix that? And then if it is fixed, when do we start taking you off medication? Because providers sometimes, and I hate to say, I'm not trying to dog my medical community, I don't want to be flamed, but sometimes they just, things will be fine and they just keep them on the medication. And that's not necessary. Like, if they're doing well, if the situation has resolved, they've done therapy, the medication was just as a tool to help them to get through it until they can get a good therapist and resolve their issues, then we need to taper you off.
If you, so I want to utilize the fact that you are here so people can like even learn from you as far as having a conversation with their mental health providers, right? So say you're in an experience where you are on medication and it's clear to you that maybe you don't need to continue taking medication. What could people say? Like, how could people like open up that conversation with their medical provider?
I think for a client, I think you have to advocate for yourself, because there are going to be providers like me that's going to be like, okay, this is a situation that you're going through. This is probably the timeline, depending on the effort you put, right? Because I can tell you do this and do that and see a therapist and all this, but if you don't do anything, then you're going to be on the medication longer. It's just the patient has to advocate for themselves, like, okay, if I'm going to be on this medication, do I need to be on this long term? And if the provider says, well, I do think you need to be on long term, you need to ask the provider, why is that? You know, and if they can't give you a clear definition as to why, then you probably need to find another provider.
Jennifer is now servicing people in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, I mean, but that's real. I think a lot of times I'll have conversations with people who are working with mental health providers or you know, anyone who is dealing with their mental or their physical health and almost feel like stuck in that, like, oh, well, if this expert says this thing, then I guess I just have to stick with them. And no, like you can definitely ask why, but you can also realize that like at different points within your your own personal care management, that different providers will provide different things at different times, right? You don't need to necessarily stay with the same therapist or, with the same psychiatric nurse practitioner that whole time, or you might need to meet somebody who actually meets the needs that you personally have and can have this type of conversation, because you seem to be very open to conversation. And it seems like that's really important, especially when it comes to any medication management.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. So tell us a little bit more. So you and I talked about how much, childhood and our experiences in childhood can play into our current reality and the things that we're experiencing right now. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, for example, right, maybe you grew up in a family whereby there was a lot of chaos. Maybe mom wasn't around. Maybe father wasn't around. And as you grow up, you start to develop, traits or feelings of being avoidant, being distrustful of people, not being available, right? Because it stemmed from your childhood where your parental figures or your guardian wasn't there to give you that nurturement. So then what happens? You kind of follow that path. And if it's not addressed with your psychiatric provider or therapist, then you end up passing it off indirectly, not that you purposely mean to do that, but also to your offspring. And then the cycle just continues.
Okay. So how do we put an end to that?
How do we put an end to that? Is seeing a good therapist. Okay. A therapist can help you to address your traumas, but sometimes therapy may not be enough. Sometimes I'll get referrals from therapists that say, hey, I'm really working with a client in terms of their PTSD, which is, post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic experiences. I'm still working with them, but I think I would like my client to have medication just to help them to be able to push through this until we can kind of finish therapy and see if we can, get them in a good place. So therapy, I always tell my clients therapy. And then if therapy is not really working, because sometimes therapy alone can work. Even I get clients that'll come in and based on my assessment, because there are two assessments I typically do when I'm assessing my clients, a PHQ-9, which is a depression scale, and then I have a GAD-7, which is more of an anxiety scale. So I kind of, based on what the patient writes, I kind of look at where they stand in terms of their depression and anxiety, and then based also on their medical and social history. If I feel they don't need medication, I'll tell them, I said, you know what, I don't think you need medication. You really need a therapist. If I feel like their symptoms are really, really bad, I feel like medication alone will not be enough. Therapy alone will not be enough. Then I'll tell them, hey, I think you need to be on medication, but I do recommend you need to be with a therapist. You need to do therapy. And both of those modalities helping you, hopefully you'll get better. And then maybe in the future, if we can take you off medication, usually on average, most people 8 to 12 months, at least most people a year. But depending on the circumstances, I have people less than a year, I take them off, because maybe I have somebody who's severely like grieving because they lost their mother or they lost their father and they're having panic attacks and they can't work, and I tell them, hey, you need to see a therapist to address this, someone you can talk to in terms of grief counseling. Here's a medication, depending on their symptoms, especially if it's interfering with their work. If they're having severe panic attacks, they don't want to go to work, they don't want to get out of bed, they need to be on a medication. And then they also need to do therapy. And if they're able to get past that grief cycle, then I'm like, okay, let's scale you back. Let's taper you off this medication.
So someone here is asking if you are a telehealth provider, because potentially want to work with you. So are you a telehealth provider?
Yes.
Wonderful. And you will give us the information to make
yes.
sure. Okay, good, awesome. Okay, you mentioned work. I want to be able to address that too, right? Because a lot of what we're talking about is life at home and family and all of that, but work. What has come up for you as a provider, as far as like ways in which women are like self-sabotaging when it comes to work and their mental health?
Staying in a job you don't like.
Woo!
Staying in a job you don't like.
You notice her body posture?
Staying in a job you don't like. And I just want to say from a personal story, there was a time in my life I stayed in a job that, I mean, and that time I was working as a family nurse practitioner. I was seeing like 35, maybe close to 40 patients a day. I hardly was eating. I was like, I typically weigh like 128, and then I was like weighing like 110, 115, was not getting enough sleep. And I had to, and I loved my patients, you know, I really loved them, but the management, the structure we had, the employer I was working, they were just putting so much on us that it was just not feasible. You know, I said, I have to live, right? And I definitely don't want to be burnt out to the point that negative energy, you know, they'll see it, my clients. Because I always believe if you're burnt out in a situation, in a job whereby you don't have the composure, you don't have the patience anymore, people can see like you're kind of irritated and burnt out, you don't need to be in that job, especially as a healthcare provider, because the patient didn't ask for you to be burnt out. They're not involved in whatever you're going through. They're just here to get well. So when I was going through that situation, I said, dude, I have to resign. Mm-hmm. But I gave them enough notice because I didn't want, you know, my clients to like, you know, be in a situation where they don't have a provider, but I gave them maybe about 3 to 4 months notice. And once I transitioned from that job, I was able to get enough sleep. I got my weight back. My face wasn't filled with acne. You know, my hair wasn't like falling out. Mm-hmm. And I understand for some people, like maybe in your situation, maybe you have to stay in the job that's stressful because, you know, of finances. But I always tell my patients, what is your exit plan eventually? Because if you don't have any exit plan, then yeah, you're going to be miserable. But I always tell my clients, if you have to stay in the job to put food on the table, fine. But where is your exit plan? What is your plan on finding another job that can provide you better comfort, better flexibility with your family? And as far as you're creating that plan, that exit plan, that's what matters. Yeah. Than no plan at all.
Exactly. And then there's an end in sight too, right? Like you are possibly struggling and still experiencing the same things, but you're still working towards something and you created an end in sight, right? Yes. So important. Yes. Ooh, because it is hard to, you know, when a place does not work for you or a person does not work for you or an experience does not work for you. And it's just the gap in between knowing it doesn't work and then completely living a different experience is like getting really comfortable with change. And one way to support getting comfortable with change is being strategic and having a plan and an end goal. So I appreciate you for bringing that up and even just speaking about your own personal experience. Okay. So, Jen, what are you offering these wonderful humans to help them gather themselves?
Yes. If there's any client that needs a psychiatric provider who's holistic based, who's not just going to say, here's medication and not look at situational issues that may be affecting your mental health, then I'm the person for you. I have a website that you can go to. It's odemahealth.com. I'll put the link in. I know like that the word is kind of
you got it.
so much private on.
She's like, ooh, people they will be able to connect with you there.
Yes. You can look at my website and you can review I have my bio and everything. And if you feel like you're a good fit, you feel like you and I can work together, because my goal ultimately is I believe in medication management. I believe in the benefits of medication, but I also decipher who needs to be on medication. I'm not somebody who's just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to put you on medication because, you know, for my checkbook, if I feel like you don't need medication, I will give you a referral source to a therapist. And if I do put you on medication, if I don't see that you need it long-term, we will discuss that. And we will discuss a tapering plan about how to taper you off the medication once you are better, so to speak.
Wonderful. A true doctor. See, why don't you let me call you doctor? I mean, come on. Like,
you know,
you already have tons of people like, okay, how do I work with you? Telehealth, please. Like, wonderful. Oh my gosh, Jennifer, thank you for spending the time here. And then also just giving people the perspective like of another type of health professional who really, really cares about their care, honestly. And Bacardi said it really well in the chat too. I have to be alive. Like you have to be alive to continue to do your work, because at the end of the day, yes, they will replace you. A company will not all of a sudden stop
exactly.
because you are no longer there. They will replace
exactly. I have so many clients, so many minority women. They're like, I have to stay in this job. I say, no, you don't. You can temporarily stay in the job and create an exit plan that will give you a light at the end of the tunnel. But we as women, we have to take accountability for our physical and mental health, because at the end of the day, once you're gone, you're gone. Okay. Yeah. And your family that you're striving to just stay in this job with no exit plan or be in a hostile situation because you're like, oh, I have to do this for my family, or, oh, I don't want people to talk about me and make me feel like, oh, I'm a bad person, you know, whether that's being in a bad relationship, whether that's sticking, like I said, in a job you don't like, whether that's dealing with certain toxic relationships, whether that's with family or friends. At the end of the day, if you pass on, life will go on. Your family, your friends, your job, they will learn to adapt without you.
They will. They will. Oh, all right. See, listen, go ahead and snatch. Exactly. See what I said? Literally, this is why you came up class. Drop the mic now. Drop the mic now, Dr. Madhu. Okay. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And like I said, all of the information will be shared with you. So if you do want to work with Dr. Madhu, you can. Thank you.
Yeah.
Y'all, our time is coming up. I sing sometimes, can you tell? Our time is coming up. I am so grateful for each and every one of you just showing up within this space, but even more so showing up for yourself. Because that's what this conversation was really about. Like, how do we help you be present for you and be able to empower you to be great for yourself? And each and every one of you who's been interactive, and even if you haven't been interactive and you've just been like listening in the background, like, I hope that you are walking away with something and then also willing to like offer up whatever you gathered to another ambitious woman of color, because we got to have each other. We got to have each other. It's so important. So now, all good things come to an end. Before you log off. Okay. So a couple of things, like I said, you will all get an email with all of the information that was shared with you as far as like the little freebies and bonuses and gifts from every single one of our speakers, and their contact information, both, you know, their websites and then also their social media, so you can follow them. You will also get access to the replay, and you'll be able to share that with other people in case it like would hit them too. That y'all got to give me time for that. I'm going to upload it and then have it all pretty and nice and make sure everything is clean and clear and under control. And then I'll share it with you so that you can share it with everyone else. And then also, I just want a little bit of feedback. This is our first ever summit. Anything that resonated with you and anything that you think could be different, offer that up. And I know you would offer it up with grace and love, and I will accept every single piece of it. So do not say, well, I don't want to know. If there's something that you want Enuma to know so that the next summit is next level and also something that reaches you and others, please share that. So for right now, Sasha just put this in the chat. Go ahead and click that link. I'm going to give us a little bit of time a little bit of time to just share a little bit there. But I will also send an email where you can provide any other information that is necessary. Within the free and open response, you can definitely share whatever you want. Y'all, this has been great. This has been great. This has been so great. I'm so grateful. Oh my gosh, Sarita. Yes, y'all. Patricia, Sarita. Wonderful. We are going to have more of these. And I want to know what it is that you are looking for, because it's not enough for me to just say, oh, I think every woman of color needs to talk about this. No, I need to hear y'all's voices. So please share inside of that feedback form. And then when I also share my information with you all, follow us on Instagram at She Thriving Squad. And then also go to my website, shethrivingnog.com, subscribe, because I will be reaching out to y'all and figuring out what is it that you want me to create so that I can help yet another ambitious woman of color not only reach her goals, but stop being everything for everyone and start prioritizing her own wellness, her own care, so that she can thrive in her life. Because realistically speaking, y'all, the main thing that is important is if you take care of yourself and you thrive within yourself, you are then supporting tons of other people besides you and behind you. We are the ones who are creating families, building families, creating humans in the world. We are the ones people are literally modeling their lives off of. Women of color are people who everyone else is modeling their lives off of. So why would we kill ourselves? That does not make any sense. So thanks, y'all. Go ahead and fill out that form. Until next time. Yes. Bye, y'all.